2018 began by boarding a flight to move to a city in a country I had never even visited before. En route to London, I spotted the Aurora Borealis off the coast of Iceland through my airplane window, one of the most beautiful works of God's creation I've ever seen. Once in the city, I lived in an apartment off of Baker Street, across the intersection from the famous address of Sherlock Holmes. This super central location allowed me to travel everywhere in London easily, getting to class at the London College of Fashion in just 9 minutes. Here I met loads of fun, inspiring friends, and together we explored London, made each other dinner, shared memories, and made many beautiful new ones. We took a class trip to Paris for 5 days, exploring all the top museums, cafes, and galleries. I stayed an extra few days on my own for Paris Fashion Week, where I met a few of my design heroes. But things were about to get even more wild as I made a last-minute decision to board a flight to Casablanca, where I stayed in a beautiful hotel painted blue and white, with a balcony facing the town square. I, of course, had to indulge myself by rewatching Casablanca while in Casablanca. Upon my return to London, I finished patterning my first ever dress, my second major photo shoot, and wrapped up the semester with a big party. It was bittersweet saying goodbye to so many beautiful, wonderful friends, but I stayed in the city another 5 weeks. When I first arrived in London, I was so warmly welcomed into Hillsong, an inspiring church with campuses around the world, and I spent much of my free time with friends I'd made through Hillsong, as well as designing graphics for different church programs. With school over, I briefly worked in a grilled cheese shop, which was a big mistake, and hand modeled a few times to pay rent. One of the saddest things I've ever done was to get on a plane back to America. I left behind a beautiful life which I will cherish forever. But 2018 still had so much more for me. A couple weeks later, I embarked on a world tour with my parents and 2 younger sisters. We crossed the continent to our first stop, Vancouver, Canada. From there, we spent a few days each in Honolulu, Tokyo, Seoul, Beijing, Cairo, Petra, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and Amsterdam. Then from Amsterdam, we took a cruise of the Baltic nations, stopping at Skagen, Tallinn, St. Petersburg, Helsinki, Stockholm, and Copenhagen before returning to Amsterdam. I spent my birthday in the air between Amsterdam and Iceland, where we spent 4 days touring the entire perimeter of the island country. I enjoyed a brief month staying with my parents right outside Washington, D.C., before leaving the country again, this time for a semester in Venice, Italy. I stopped in London on my way to the land of pizza and pasta, and then returned the following weekend for London Fashion Week, where I did backstage work for the same shows I had worked the previous season. Back in Venice, I enjoyed a beautiful apartment with tall windows overlooking a canal and framing a gorgeous view of the sunset every evening. Our time in Venice was interrupted by week-long trips to both Rome and Athens, as well as weekend getaways to Verona, Milan, Vicenza, Florence, London, and Barcelona. The day before my final presentations, I escaped Venice one last time for an alpine ski trip with 2 friends I had made during my travels. The drive through the mountains will forever be ingrained in my memory as one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen. The snow on the mountain was perfect, and we were joined on the slopes by the Italian military and the Olympic ski team. After my studio review the following day, I flew back to London, where I spent 11 days visiting with friends, touring all the new exhibits, and volunteering at my church. After waving London goodbye yet again, I returned to Washington, D.C. to see my family, from whence we embarked on a road trip to Orlando and New Orleans for Disney World and Christmas. I ended the year with a New Year's party at my best friend's house back in D.C. 2018 brought many interesting statistics, including travels to 23 countries, 4 continents, a total of 31 flights, 1 every 11 days, 1,272 posts to my Insta stories. I spent 39% of my year in the UK, followed by 21% in the US, 20% in Italy, and the remaining 20% was shared by 20 other nations. 2018 challenged and blessed me like never before. Most of the people I talked to on a regular basis I met in 2018. Overall, 2018 was a fabulous trip around the sun.
And a partridge in a pear tree.